The sound is what wakes me, though wake is not the correct word. I do not sleep, so much as I cease moving for a while. My body slumped against warm steel, eyes open, breath shallow, mind drifting in tight, circular patterns like a rat trapped in a pipe. The sound comes again, a hammer strike, distant but heavy, echoing through the factory's ribcage. 1 beat, 2, 3. Each impact travels through the floor, up my legs, into my bones. The machine is calling. It is always calling. I peel myself away from the wall. The metal is slick with condensation and something darker. Something that smells faintly of iron and old oil. My fingers leave streaks behind as I move. Proof that I was here, that I exist, if only for a moment. The lumens overhead flicker in tired rhythms, casting the assembly hall in alternating bands of sickly yellow and shadow. In the darkness between those flickers, the factory feels infinite. I imagine it extending forever, a maze of conveyor belts, press chambers, smelters, and prayer shrines, all stacked atop one another until they blot out the sky. I have never seen the sky. I am told it exists. I believe this because disbelief would be wasteful. My designation is Worker Grade Delta 793. Once, long ago, I had a name that required no numbers, no prefixes. That name is irrelevant now. Names imply individuality, and individuality implies inefficiency. The overseers taught us that on the first day, their voices amplified by vox grills embedded in the walls. You are not here to live, they said. You are here to function. I function. I step onto the line as the horn sounds, a low bellow that vibrates in my chest cavity. The conveyor lurches to life, its surface crawling with half-formed components. Armor plating, weapon housings, machine parts, whose final purpose I am not permitted to know. Knowledge is another inefficiency. My station is fixed. 3 movements, repeated until my muscles forget how to do anything else. Reach, align, bolt. Reach, align, bolt. The tool in my hand is warm before I even activate it, its grip polished smooth by countless workers before me, their skin worn away molecule by molecule, absorbed into the factory's appetite. The air is thick today. It always is, but today it feels heavier, as if it has weight, as if each breath must be dragged into my lungs by force. Chemical fumes sting my eyes. Fine metallic dust coats my tongue. I do not cough. Coughing slows production. The man to my left coughs anyway. He tries to stifle it, pressing his sleeve to his mouth, eyes wide with fear. The line does not stop. It never stops. A shadow passes overhead. I do not look up. Looking up is discouraged. But the shadow is unmistakable, vast and angular, and for a moment the factory floor dims beneath its passing. An overseer automata walks the gantry above us, its heavy feet ringing against steel. Red optics sweep the line, pausing here and there, measuring output, detecting variance. The coughing man stiffens, his hands shake, his bolt slips, clattering to the floor. The automata stops. There is a sound like tearing metal, and the man is gone. One moment he is there, the next, there is only a smear on the conveyor edge and the echo of a servo arm retracting. Production does not pause. The components continue to move. A different worker steps into the empty space without being told. I do not know where he came from. I do not ask. Questions are inefficiencies too. I keep working. My heart does not race. Fear, like my name, has been worn down into something dull and distant. The Emperor protects, they tell us. I have never seen evidence of this, but belief is mandatory. Above my station, bolted to a support pillar, hangs a small shrine, a crude aquila fashioned from scrap metal, a strip of parchment sealed beneath it, its ink smeared by humidity and time. During sanctioned prayer intervals, we are allowed 6 seconds to acknowledge it. 6 seconds feels generous. Today, there will be no sanctioned prayer. Output quotas are behind. Hours pass, or days. Time inside the factory is measured in shifts and sirens, not sunrises. My body aches in familiar places. The ache is comforting in its predictability. It tells me I am still useful. When the pain fades, that is when I worry. Pain means the nerves still respond. Pain means I have not yet become replaceable scrap. At some point, my hand slips. The bolt driver bites into my palm instead of the casing. There is a brief, sharp sensation, followed by warmth. Blood beads up, dark and almost black, beneath the factory lights. It drips onto the component, hissing faintly as it hits hot metal. I stare at it for a fraction of a second too long. A single drop of blood, spreading, claiming territory. I wipe it away with my sleeve. The machine does not care what fluids lubricate its workings, so long as the work continues. I tighten the bolt. Reach. Align, bolt. When the horn finally sounds again, signaling shift rotation, my legs nearly give out beneath me. I join the stream of workers moving toward the HAB blocks, our footsteps forming a dull collective rhythm. No one speaks. Vox use is restricted outside of sanctioned chants and work commands. Speech breeds thought. Thought breeds doubt. The HAB block smells worse than the factory, if that is possible. Too many bodies packed into too little space. Heat trapped with nowhere to go. I collapse onto my assigned cot, a thin slab bolted to the wall. The man above me mutters in his sleep. Fragments of a prayer or a memory, I cannot tell which. I stare at the ceiling, at the pipes running through it like exposed veins. Sometimes I imagine what I am building. I imagine the armor plates leaving this place, fitted together, sanctified by priests I will never meet. I imagine them marching across distant worlds, crushing rebellions I will never hear about. There is a strange comfort in that thought, that some small part of me, some trace of my labor, will exist somewhere beyond these walls, even if I never will. The lights dim, not off, never off, just dimmer. Tomorrow the hammer will strike again, and I will rise. The lights never truly go dark. They only retreat slightly, as if embarrassed to witness us at rest. I lie on the cot and count my breaths until the counting becomes meaningless. Sleep arrives not as relief, but as a system failure, brief and shallow. Dreams, when they come, are made of conveyor belts and screaming pistons, of endless lines that stretch into fog. I dream of my hands continuing to work, even after the rest of me has been ground away. The siren tears me back into motion. It is too loud, too close, a sound that bypasses thought and strikes directly at the spine. My eyes open before I decide to open them. Around me, bodies shift and rise, a synchronized resurrection. No one complains. Complaints require energy better spent elsewhere. I stand. My legs protest, joints grinding softly, but they hold. That is all that is required of them. On the way back to the line, we pass a transparency window set into the corridor wall. Through it, I can see the raw intake levels. New workers arriving. They are herded forward in tight groups, heads shaved, clothes stripped away, replaced with the same gray fatigues we all wear. Some look young, some look old, all look terrified. I recognize the expression. It lasts about 3 shifts. A servitor stands at the end of the corridor, once human eyes glassy, jaw slack, tubes running to its skull, cables sprouting like dead vines. It dispenses nutrient paste into our ration containers with mechanical precision. The paste is warm and tasteless. It sits heavy in the stomach, a block of fuel rather than food. I eat it quickly. Lingering invites correction. Back on the line, the work has changed. It always does, without warning. Today we assemble munitions casings. Heavy things. Awkward things. My station requires me to lift each casing, rotate it precisely 30 degrees, then secure the internal bracing. My shoulders scream within the first hour. I welcome the sensation. Pain is honest. Across from me, a woman works in silence. Her hair is patchy, her scalp marked with old burns. One of her eyes is a dull augmetic, its lens scratched and cloudy. It whirs softly as it tracks her movements. She does not look at me. We are not permitted to look at each other for long. Prolonged eye contact fosters connection. Connection fosters sentiment. Sentiment fosters hesitation. Still, in the reflection of the polished casing, I catch glimpses of her face. Empty, focused, like my own. The factory trembles suddenly, a deep, rolling vibration that rattles teeth. The line shudders but does not stop. Somewhere far above us, something massive has moved. A titan, perhaps, or a macro lift, shifting cargo the size of city blocks. The thought sends a strange thrill through me. To be so large, so significant. I crush the thought immediately. Envy is heresy. Hours bleed together. My hands move without instruction. My mind drifts inward, retreating to a narrow space where sensation dulls. This is how most of us survive. We become smaller inside, compressing ourselves until there is nothing left to break. A scream cuts through that numbness like a blade. It comes from 2 stations down, high-pitched, panicked. I do not turn my head. I do not need to see. I know what has happened. A casing slipped, a hand caught between metal and press. The scream lasts exactly 3 seconds before it is cut off. The press cycles. The line continues. Later, during a maintenance lull, measured in heartbeats, a pair of servo skulls drift down the line. Their eye lenses glow pale blue as they scan for contaminants. One pauses near my station, hovering close enough that I can smell the faint incense burning inside its casing. Its lens focuses on my sleeve, still stiff where yesterday's blood dried. There is a moment of stillness, then it drifts on. I release a breath I did not realize I was holding. I think of the man who coughed, of how quickly the factory erased him. I wonder how long it would take to erase me. At shift's end, my arms shake uncontrollably, muscle fibers torn and rebuilt in real time. In the hab block, someone has scratched words into the wall above the communal wash basin. The letters are crude, uneven. We were more than this. By the next cycle, the words are gone, scrubbed away or plated over. The wall is smooth again. I try to remember the exact shape of the letters and find that I cannot. Days pass, weeks perhaps. My sense of time erodes further. The factory introduces new quotas. Output increases, rest decreases. One of the workers collapses on the line, simply folds inward like a puppet with its strings cut. The overseer automata does not kill him. Instead, servo arms descend and drag the twitching body away. Recycling, I assume. Nothing is wasted. I begin to feel something new in my chest, a pressure that is not pain. It builds slowly, unnoticed at first, like corrosion beneath paint. I do not have a word for it. Words have been stripped from my vocabulary, one by one, leaving only those necessary for function. Still, the sensation persists. During a rare sanctioned prayer interval, I stand before the shrine and recite the litany of purpose. My voice is hoarse. The words feel thin in my mouth. I stare at the Aquila and wait for something. Guidance, reassurance, anything. Nothing comes. That night, in the half-sleep between sirens, I remember my old name. The memory is faint, like a pick capture left too long in the sun, but it is there. It startles me so badly that my heart stutters. I clamp down on the thought, forcing it back into the dark. Remembering is dangerous. Remembering leads to longing. Still, the pressure in my chest grows. The next day, an alarm sounds that is not meant for us. A deep, rolling klaxon that makes the walls vibrate. The line halts for the first time since I arrived. We freeze in place, unsure what to do. The overseer automata lifts its head, optics flashing rapidly. Through the high windows, I see light change. Not the usual industrial glow, but something brighter, hotter, orange-white, like a wound opening in the sky. Bombardment. The realization ripples through the factory, silent but electric. Somewhere beyond these walls, war has come closer. I feel it like a hand closing around my throat. For the first time in years, my heart races. The klaxon stops. The line lurches back into motion. I return to work, hands trembling, chest tight. The pressure inside me is unbearable now. As I lift the casing, my grip falters. It slips, crashes to the floor, denting the metal. The overseer turns toward me. For a heartbeat, everything is still. In that moment, I understand something with terrible clarity. I understand that I will die here. Not today, perhaps, not tomorrow, but eventually. Ground down, recycled, forgotten. I understand that this is all there will ever be. And I understand that I am tired. My hands do not move. The automata advances, each step measured and final. Red optics lock onto me. I wait for the tearing metal, the sudden end. It does not come. Instead, another tremor shakes the factory, violent enough to throw us off balance. Dust rains from the ceiling. Somewhere, a support beam groans. The automata pauses, recalibrating. In that pause, something inside me breaks. I run. I do not know where I am going. I only know that I am moving away from the line, away from the rhythm that has defined my existence. Shouts echo behind me, mechanical and human voices blending into noise. I sprint down corridors I have only ever walked. Lungs burning, vision tunneling. Alarms blare. Emergency lumens flash red. The factory, my entire world, feels suddenly hostile, unfamiliar. I reach a door marked with sigils I do not recognize. It is sealed, of course. Everything is sealed. I slam my fist against it anyway, a useless gesture, a final inefficiency. Then the door opens. Not fully. Just enough. A figure stands on the other side, robed in oil-stained red, mechadendrites twitching behind him. A tech priest. His lenses fix on me, assessing, calculating. "You are out of place," he says, voice distorted, layered with machine tones. I stare at him, chest heaving, hands shaking. Words claw their way up from somewhere deep and forgotten. I don't want to function anymore. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then slowly, he tilts his head. "Then you may yet be useful," he replies. The door slides shut behind me. The door seals with a sound like a coffin lid, final and absolute. The noise of the factory fades, muffled by layers of ceramite and sanctified insulation. For the first time in my life, there is silence. Not true silence, nothing is ever truly silent here, but a quieter hum, deeper, more deliberate. I sway on my feet, suddenly unsure of my balance now that the rhythm of the line no longer anchors me. The tech priest watches me. I can feel his gaze, even when his lenses turn away. Attention split across a dozen invisible readouts only he can see. Incense coils from vents in his robes, sharp and metallic, stinging my nostrils. I realize I am trembling. Not from exertion, from proximity. "You fled assigned labor during active production," he intones. "Explain deviation." I open my mouth. Nothing comes out. Explanation requires structure, and my thoughts have none. They are a tangle of pressure and exhaustion, and something dangerously close to grief. I swallow and try again. "I dropped a casing," I say finally. The words sound small, inadequate. I stopped. His mechadendrites twitch. Data feeds updating. "Stopping is inefficient," he replies. "I know," I say. And I do. That knowledge is etched into me deeper than bone. I just couldn't. The tech priest steps closer. Each movement is accompanied by soft clicks and whirs, the sound of a body modified beyond recognition. One of his mechanical limbs extends, its tip hovering inches from my chest. I flinch, expecting pain. It does not come. Instead, the limb emits a low pulse. My vision blurs. For a heartbeat, I feel exposed, as if something inside me has been opened and examined. "Biological stress indicators elevated," he murmurs. "Cognitive fatigue severe. Emotional variance detected." I do not know how he knows these things. I do not ask. "You are damaged," he concludes. The word hits harder than any blow. Damaged implies repair or disposal. I brace myself for either. "Damaged things can still serve," he continues, "in different capacities." He turns and gestures for me to follow. I hesitate only a second before obeying. Obedience is instinct. The corridor beyond the door slopes downward, deeper into the factory's understructure. The air grows cooler as we descend, heavy with the scent of coolant and sacred oils. Pipes line the walls, each etched with runes and litanies. I recognize none of them, but I feel their weight pressing in on me. We pass rooms I have never seen. Vaulted chambers where massive components hang suspended by grav clamps. Rows of dormant servitors, their bodies locked in frozen poses of labor. I look at their faces, what remains of them, and feel a cold kinship. I wonder how many were once workers like me, broken down and repurposed. The tech priest stops before a wide aperture sealed by overlapping metal plates. He places a hand against it and speaks a string of binaric cant. The plates retract with a hiss, revealing a chamber bathed in dim red light. Inside, people kneel. Dozens of them, men and women in various states of augmentation, their bodies wired into consoles, cables running from spines and skulls into the walls. Their eyes are closed. Their lips move in silent prayer or silent scream. I cannot tell which. This is a sanctified interface chamber, the tech priest says. Machine communion requires sacrifice. I take a step back without realizing it. I didn't ask for this. You asked not to function, he replies calmly. This is an alternative function. Understanding dawns slowly, like rust spreading. You're going to turn me into one of them. Correction, he says. You will assist, temporarily. Your neural patterns show adaptability. I laugh. The sound startles both of us. It comes out rough and broken, a sound I have not made in years. So I still don't get to stop. No, the tech priest agrees. Stopping is still inefficient. He leads me to an empty interface cradle. It looks like a throne built by someone who has never sat comfortably in their life. Cables dangle from above, ending in needles and ports. I stare at it, every instinct screaming. I won't survive this, I say. He considers that. Survival is secondary. I am guided into the cradle. Cold metal presses against my back. Restraints snap into place around my wrists and ankles, firm but not painful. The cables descend. I squeeze my eyes shut as the first needle pierces my skin at the base of my skull. There is pressure, then heat, then something else. Something like being pulled inside out. Images flood my mind. Data streams. Machine logic. I feel the factory in a way I never have before. Its hunger. Its endless calculations. I am a node now, a living conduit. Pain flares, sharp and overwhelming, then settles into a constant burn. I grit my teeth and endure. Endurance is something I understand. Time loses meaning again, but differently now. I am aware of processes far beyond my old station. I feel munitions rolling off the line, armor plates being sanctified, power cores charging. I feel bombardments striking the surface above, each impact a distant shudder through the structure. The war is closer. The factory strains to keep up. In moments of clarity, I think of the life I fled, the conveyor, the rhythm. It feels unreal now, like a memory from someone else's mind. I wonder if this is worse. I wonder if it matters. At some point, the tech priest's voice cuts through the noise. Integration stable. The restraints release. The cables retract, leaving my head buzzing, my thoughts sluggish and echoing. I slump forward, catching myself just before I fall. You will return to labor, he says, different labor. I am escorted back upward, to levels I have never walked. When I emerge, it is into a control chamber overlooking the factory floor. From here, the line stretches out like a living thing, workers moving in endless patterns below. I can see my old station. Someone else stands there now, hands moving in the same three motions. A console waits for me. It hums softly as I place my hands on it. Data scrolls across the surface, symbols resolving into meaning with unsettling ease. I understand it, more than I ever understood anything before. Monitor output variance, the tech priest instructs. Flag inefficiencies. I nod. I do not trust my voice. As I work, I realize something with a hollow clarity. I have not escaped the factory. I have simply become more deeply embedded within it. I am no longer just feeding it with my body, but with my mind. Below, a worker stumbles. I see it before it happens. A spike in fatigue metrics, a slight delay in response time. The system flags him. I hesitate, finger hovering over the console. A single input would summon correction. I think of the pressure in my chest, of the moment I stopped, of how close I came to being erased. My finger presses down. The flag clears. The line continues. It is a small thing, an inefficiency. But for the first time since I can remember, the pressure eases, just a little. I do not know how long I can keep doing this. I do not know if it will matter in the end. The factory is vast, the Imperium vaster still. But for now, I remain here, suspended between machine and flesh, watching the brutal life of the workers below. Knowing it was once my own, knowing it could be again. The hammer strikes somewhere deep in the structure. The rhythm continues, and so do I. The console's glow paints my hands in pale reds and sickly whites, lumen light refracted through skin that no longer feels entirely mine. I watch data scroll past, heartbeat rhythms translated into efficiency curves, muscle fatigue rendered as declining graphs, human lives compressed into numbers with decimal points. It should horrify me. Instead, it feels familiar. This is just another assembly line. Only now, the components are people. The tech priest departs without ceremony. His presence lingers, though, like static in the air. I know he is watching through other eyes, other machines. I am never alone. That knowledge settles into me, heavy but expected. Below, the workers move. From up here, they look smaller, less real. Ants following grooves worn into the floor by generations before them. I track output fluctuations automatically. My fingers dance across the console, issuing micro adjustments, slight delays here, rerouted flow there. Each correction ripples outward, smoothing the factory's endless hunger. And with every adjustment, I feel it. A faint echo in my skull when a press cycles. A dull warmth behind my eyes when a furnace flares. The factory is no longer just around me. It is in me. Or perhaps I am in it. The distinction feels unimportant. The bombardment intensifies. I see it in the data first. Power draw spikes, structural stress warnings, blooming like sores across the readout. A macro impact rocks the complex, strong enough to send a shiver through my bones. Dust rains from the ceiling. Somewhere, far below, someone screams. The line does not stop. Reinforce Sector Gamma. A Vox command crackles into my ear. I respond without speaking, routing additional power, diverting workers from non-essential stations. Non-essential. The word floats through my thoughts, heavy with implication. A warning flashes, life sign failure in Hab Block 12. I zoom the feed instinctively, watching as med servitors roll through cramped corridors, collecting bodies with the same care they apply to broken machinery. I recognize one of the faces, slack and pale, the woman with the augmetic eye. Her lens is dark now, unlit. The pressure returns to my chest, sharp and insistent. I force my attention back to the console. Emotion introduces error. Error introduces waste. Hours pass, or perhaps minutes. The war above draws closer still. I can hear it now, faintly, through layers of rock and steel. The distant thunder of macro cannons, the scream of atmospheric reentry. Titans are moving. I know this because the factory knows this. Its output shifts in response, priorities recalculated to feed the god engines that stride across the surface. A new directive appears on my screen, stamped with sigils of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Emergency production escalation. Quotas double, rest cycles suspended. I swallow. Below, workers falter as the line accelerates. Movements become sloppy. Fatigue curves spike. My console floods with alerts. Each one is a choice. Correct or ignore. Cull or conserve. I remember the moment I ran. The way my lungs burned. How alive I felt in that terror. I remember the single drop of blood on hot metal. How it spread before I wiped it away. My hands move. I reroute power to climate control, marginally lowering the temperature on the floor. I insert fractional delays into the most punishing cycles, shaving milliseconds that add up to breaths stolen back from exhaustion. The system protests, red warnings flaring, but it adjusts. It always adjusts. I am careful. Too much deviation would be noticed. I must be an inefficiency that hides within acceptable margins. The factory shudders again, harder this time. A section of ceiling collapses in Sector Delta. I watch the feed as debris crushes 3 workers instantly. No pain spikes register. Clean, efficient. I feel nothing for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, my vision blurs. I blink hard. The data wavers, then stabilizes. Emotional bleed-through, the tech priest would call it. A flaw. I suppress it the only way I'll know how, by focusing deeper, letting the machine logic drown out the noise. A new icon appears. External breach. Hostile forces within the upper manufactorum. Panic ripples through the workers below, visible even from here. Some look up for the first time, eyes wide, faces slick with sweat and grime. They know what this means. War does not spare factories. It devours them. I receive a final command. Prepare purge protocols. My breath catches. Purge protocols are blunt instruments. Seal sections. Vent atmosphere. Deny resources to the enemy at any cost, including the cost of everyone still inside. My finger hovers over the activation rune. I think of the hab-block walls, of the scratched words that are no longer there, of the old name that still haunts the edges of my mind. I think of the workers who will never even see what kills them, who will die choking in the dark so the factory might live a little longer. The rune pulses, waiting. I do not activate it. Instead, I do something far more dangerous. I open channels I am not authorized to access, threading commands through maintenance subroutines, hiding them beneath layers of benign-looking code. I unlock emergency corridors. I trigger false readings, localized power failures, structural instability, anything that might buy time, redirect flows. The system resists. Alerts scream. Somewhere a tech priest will notice. It is inevitable. I work faster, sweat beading on my brow, heart pounding loud enough that I swear the console can hear it. Below, workers begin to move, not in neat lines, but in confused streams, spilling into corridors that should not be open. Some fall, some are trampled, but some keep running. A sharp pain lances through my skull. Warning lights explode across my vision. Neural feedback. The factory does not like being lied to. I grit my teeth and push through it. The bombardment reaches a crescendo. A Titan's death cry echoes through the data, a massive energy signature collapsing in on itself. The ground shakes violently. My console flickers. Power dips. In that moment of chaos, I feel something I have not felt in years. Hope. It is fragile, dangerous. Almost immediately, containment fields snap back online. Emergency shutters slam shut. The flow of fleeing workers slows, then stops. Too many are still trapped. Too many will die. A presence floods the control chamber, cold and absolute. The tech priest's voice booms directly into my skull, stripped of any pretense of humanity. Expense the console, strength draining away. There is no hiding now. The data trails lead back to me, a web of heresy and inefficiency. I tried, I whisper, unsure if he can hear my voice, or only the electrical patterns it creates. I tried to make it less brutal. There is a pause, long, calculating. Brutality is not a variable, the voice replies. It is a constant. Pain explodes through me as restraints snap out of the console, clamping onto my wrists. I cry out, the sound torn from me, raw and animal. Systems shut down one by one, my access severed. The factory's voice recedes, leaving behind a hollow silence that feels like amputation. As I am dragged away from the console, down corridors I once walked freely, I catch a final glimpse of the factory floor, of workers still moving, still functioning, unaware of how close they came to something different. I am thrown into a holding cell, bare metal and dim light. The door seals. I slump against it, every nerve screaming, mind buzzing with phantom data. I do not know what will happen to me. Reconditioning, servitorization, disposal. The possibilities unspool without emotion. But as I sit there, broken and useless by the factory standards, I realize something with a quiet certainty. For a brief moment, I stopped the line, and in the endless grinding cruelty of the Imperium, that may be the closest thing to freedom I will ever know. The cell smells of cold metal and old despair. I become aware of it slowly, as sensation creeps back into my body, like a tide returning to a stripped shoreline. My wrists ache where the restraints bit deep, skin bruised and swollen. My head throbs with a hollow, echoing pain, as if something vital has been torn out and left behind. Time stretches, or perhaps it collapses. Without the factory's constant rhythm, whispering inside my skull, I feel smaller, thinner, like a shadow peeled away from the wall that once gave it shape. I sit with my back against the door, knees drawn to my chest, listening to my own breathing. It sounds too loud, too human. The lights flicker once, twice, then stabilize. Footsteps approach, measured, unhurried. I know that sound now. The door irises open and the tech priest stands framed in red lumen glow, mechadendrites coiled like patient serpents. He does not look angry, he does not look pleased. Those concepts do not apply. You interfered with optimal production, he says. You endangered the sanctity of the process. I lift my head. My throat is dry, but I force the words out anyway. People got out. Yes, he agrees. An unacceptable variable. For a moment, something reckless flares inside me. A final inefficiency. They lived. The tech priest is silent for a long time. Data scrolls across the lenses of his eyes. Calculations finish. A decision is reached. You are correct, he says at last. Some lived. His mechadendrites extend. I close my eyes, not in fear, but in exhaustion. Whatever comes next, I do not have the strength to resist it. Instead of pain, I feel restraints again, firmer, more permanent. I am lifted, carried through corridors I barely register. My mind drifts. Images surface unbidden. The woman with the augmetic eye, the scratched words on the wall, the moment my finger hovered over the purge rune. I cling to those memories, afraid they will be taken too. When I open my eyes, I am no longer in the factory's depths. I am somewhere higher. I can feel it in the air, thinner, cooler. I am positioned upright, supported by a rigid frame. My arms are held out slightly from my sides. Something clamps around my spine with a soft, decisive click. A mirror hangs opposite me. I barely recognize the figure reflected there. My head has been shaved. Ports have been installed along my skull, neat and symmetrical. My eyes look too bright, pupils dilated, reflecting light like polished glass. I look like a thing being prepared rather than a person who has lived. Servitorization would be efficient, the tech priest says behind me. However, full erasure would result in the loss of experiential data. I wait. You will be repurposed, he continues. As a reminder. Cold floods my back as something integrates with my spine. Pain flares, sharp and white, then dulls into a constant pressure. Information bleeds back into my mind, but not the vast awareness I once touched. This is narrower, focused. The restraints release. I slump forward, caught by my new frame. When I am guided out, I understand where I am being taken. The factory floor. I am placed at the edge of a line, elevated just enough to be seen. A living fixture bolted into the infrastructure. My vision clears, and I realize what my new function is. I see efficiency metrics, fatigue indicators, error probabilities, but I cannot alter them. I cannot intervene. I can only observe. The workers notice me eventually. Some glance up briefly, confusion flickering across their faces. Others do not look at all. I recognize a few of them, or perhaps I only recognize myself in them. I try to speak. My mouth opens. Nothing comes out. A placard is affixed beneath me, stamped in high Gothic and binary code. I do not need to read it to understand its meaning. This is the cost of deviation. The line moves. Reach, align, bolt. Reach, align, bolt. Hours pass. Shifts change. Bodies rotate in and out, worn down and replaced. I remain. I cannot sleep. I cannot look away. Every mistake, every stumble, every quiet death on the line unfolds in perfect clarity before me. And yet, sometimes, when fatigue curves spike and hands begin to shake, I see workers slow, just a little, as if remembering something they cannot name, as if sensing, without understanding, that the factory can be resisted, even if only once, even if only briefly. The pressure returns to my chest, warm and aching. It does not crush me this time. I cannot move. I cannot speak. I cannot stop the machine. But I am here. I am seen. And somewhere beyond these walls, in the vast, uncaring dark of the Imperium, a few workers are still alive who should not be. The hammer strikes again. The rhythm continues. And in the brutal life of a Warhammer 40K factory worker, That is enough.